This broadcast is live. Hello, everyone. I'm going to talk for a few minutes, to fill people in on what's going on, but also to wait for some people to log on and start watching the live. Last week, we addressed publicly, I say we, Janelle, the CEO of the movement, addressed publicly the allegations that have been made towards the movement. And what people don't seem to understand is these allegations do not just affect Janelle. They affect volunteers. They affect survivors of MST. They affect women of color. They affect members of the LGBTQ plus community. And so we're going to talk about some of these things that have happened and how they are going directly against progress. This misinformation that is being spread is playing into the hands of the patriarchy, of white supremacy, of homophobia, because they are consistently discrediting women of color, putting into question the professionalism of minority groups, and on top of that, stopping and hindering the voices of the people who need it most. So we have 3 volunteers of the MSTM movement on this live right now. Myself, I am Ellie. I'm sure you all know me. But we also have Corey Cashman, who I'm sure you all know. Jen Chase, who is looking very dashing there today. And of course, Carrie Sutton bringing us her witchy vibes. And there's something flashing in the background of Carrie's live. What is that, darling? Are those fairy lights?
They are.
I love
I
them.
decorated in my bedroom. There's also flowers up there and everything. And I was trying to figure out how to center the laptop, so it was just a cool background, but that involved me like finding a box. So that didn't happen right now.
Well, I love it. It's witchy holidays, which we adore. So a lot of these allegations center around the nude campaigns that MCM has done. Um, Janelle, in particular, has put her nudes out there and sold them in order to raise funds for the movement. And in doing so, a lot of people have taken that message and twisted it to fit a narrative of her being a sexual predator, which isn't true. That message has been taken and twisted to fit a narrative of us being a sex cult, which isn't true. And continuing to spread this misinformation is offensive. I'm laughing because we've been dealing with this behind the scenes for 6 months now. For 6 months, and we have never come out and publicly said anything about it until last week. So I'm going to pass on right now to Jen Chase, who at this point I consider our resident expert on pinup culture. And she's going to talk a little bit about these nude photographs and the way the message has been twisted. So go for it, Jen.
I wouldn't call myself an expert. It's for me, it's not only pinup culture that I love, it is almost all types of historical fashions. Anywhere from Tudor period, French Revolution, Civil War, Victorian, Edward. And those of us who do the historical dressing, we always say vintage fashion, modern values. Being we enjoy the historical dress, but we take our values from today and we still use them. So if we're dressing up in pinup or retro, we're not always in the kitchen. We're not always stay-at-home moms. One of the biggest booms is in the veteran and military culture. You have veteran groups who go to the VA, who bring this period of time to the World War II veterans. And for a lot of them, they do photo shoots. And in that time, these photo shoots were a lot more scandalous. So these women would wear the itty bitty bikinis because it wasn't something that was done. And it wasn't something good girls did. But the troops loved it. And another thing is you couldn't see a World War II plane without a pinup, and the pinup may not have had clothes on. My grandfather, he has pinup tattoos, and none of them have clothes on because it was just a thing. It was considered normal for males to have the naked women, but it wasn't considered normal for females to actually pose nude. And female nudity actually goes back even further. Ancient Greeks and ancient Romans had no problem with female nudity. A lot of paintings, a lot of artwork do depict, the female nude. It's just when Christianity and those I can't talk.
Monotheistic?
Yes, that word. I can't talk this morning. Sorry. When a lot of religions like that started to become prevalent, that's when women became shamed for their bodies. So that has gone on up until this day. And it's even worse when somebody experiences some type of sexual trauma, be it harassment, assault, rape. Automatically, women are shamed into hiding their bodies. Some of the first questions that are asked during a rape investigation are, what were you wearing? Did you lead him on? Did you drink? And it puts all the shame onto the victim, onto the survivor, onto whatever label you want to use yourself. I've heard women call themselves sexual harassment fighters. I've heard them, still using victim, and that's okay. They can use whatever title fits them. But when we start shaming somebody who has decided to say, that word and and wear the pinup, wear the revealing clothing, do nude photo shoots, we are essentially telling them you cannot reclaim your body in a way that makes you comfortable. And that is the true re-victimization. So with me, I have people who are constantly degrading me when I do wear the pinup. Oh, you must enjoy being in the kitchen, or you must agree with all those ideals. No, I don't. I never have. I enjoy the clothing, but this is what makes me feel comfortable. This is what makes me happy, and this is what makes me reclaim my body and do what I want with it. I've done nude photo shoots. I've done partially nude photo shoots. And it's not for my husband. It's not for anybody else. It's for me to say to my rapist, to my childhood molester, you cannot take the power of my body away from me. This is my body. I will show as much as I want. I will show as little as I want. And that is okay because it is my body and it is my decision what I show. And for people to shame me and try to tell me what I can and can't do, is them trying to take the power of my body from me.
Mhm.
And that makes them just as bad as a rapist and as a harasser. And that is not okay.
Sorry, Jen.
So,
Sorry. I mean, you know, at MSDM, we completely believe that survivors of MSD have the right to express themselves any way that they see fit, whether that is in pin-up, whether that is in, early 1900s Edwardian fashion, whether it's fully clothed like myself, where I'm really quite a modest dresser. That's completely valid. And the fact that people are taking this message and twisting it to fit a narrative that comes directly from false allegations and lies is extremely harmful, particularly when this movement also supports a lot of LGBTQ plus women and men. Sorry, we support a lot of LGBTQ plus survivors, and within the umbrella of LGBTQ plus, fashion and self-expression through fashion is so important. The way that we express our gender through fashion is so important. And if you are shutting that down, if you are discrediting people, if you are spreading rumors about people as a result of how they dress, you are not being an ally to the LGBTQ plus community. And I'm saying this as somebody who is in the LGBTQ plus community. You are not being an ally to them, and you are not being an ally to MST survivors, because it isn't just us in this movement. There are plenty of other volunteers who agree with us and who have received harassment, who have been affected by all of this. So that's something to keep in mind to anybody watching this going forward, that you are taking the power away from a woman, from a survivor, every time you are spreading this misinformation about Janelle being a sexual predator or us being a sex cult. I want to quickly address, I'm going to pass on to Corey Cashman in a minute, why we know these rumors are being spread about us, how we know that this misinformation is out there, and how we know that people are plotting a smear campaign against us. It isn't just the things that are posted online. There are very disrespectful conversations happening about this movement and about Janelle behind closed doors. So I'm going to pass on to Corey Cashman, who has an email that we were forwarded, showing that this is what people are saying about us, even though these allegations are completely unfounded and there is no evidence for them. And then she's going to go on to talk a little bit about the harassment that she has faced for daring, quote unquote, to stick up for Janelle and defend Janelle. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm passionate.
It's okay. It's okay. We like that, Ellie. We love you.
Yeah, we love that about you. So I'll start with the email. It says, I did want to make you aware on something that I recently discovered about Janelle. Someone sent me a video that she posted on Facebook that describes some disturbing things. Here's a link, and they posted the link. In short, she's grooming sexual assault survivors to pose nude. Then she sells the nudes to raise money for her nonprofit. The folks that are buying these photos do not support our movement, as Janelle seems to attempt to explain in her video. Folks that buy nudes from sexual assault survivors are predators themselves, and if they really supported our cause, then they would just donate the money without requiring that Janelle send them nudes. One of the people that she has groomed to pose nudes reached out to me and told me how it caused her to relapse back into drug use and things. This person was someone I already knew, but I was unaware of their prior affiliation to Janelle. I also learned that the documentary film crew that was filming that day also is aware of all of Janelle's actions, and that the documentary is likely going to expose her as a predator in this space rather than hold on. Help the sexual assault movement. Because of all of this, my organization has cut ties with Janelle. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but I did want to make sure that you were informed and had the information that I had. I'm also available at your convenience to chat about this as well. I know that this is a lot to unpack. So we got that from one of the people that was working or with us and is no longer part of us because of the allegations about the sex cult and everything stemming from the basically like tornado cyclone that is Pamela Heal. Like we get so much hate just because of all the lies and the falsehoods that she shares, that it's ridiculous. Like sorry.
Do you want me to keep talking and you can jump back in a bit?
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry. I'm just like really frustrated and it's hard to like get the words out.
I know. So that email is incorrect on so many levels. Firstly, the documentary is not exposing Janelle as a sexual predator. And I can tell you that with certainty because Janelle is not a sexual predator. It is a documentary about mental health that came to film B-roll at a protest, sorry, not a protest, a press conference for the Fight for Our Freedom campaign that we were holding, that MSTM was holding, that MSTM funded. All four of us on this live now were present at that protest, at that press conference. So I keep saying protest, and I mean press conference.
Well, it kind of was. We were protesting somebody's bad behavior, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, in terms of press. Yeah.
It hurts me and it hurts other survivors. We need to have conversations about the taboo aspects about MST because we all suffer in silence. Like with what we went through in our history, we have the right, not even just for survivors, everybody in general has the right to own their body, to show or tell and do anything they feel comfortable with themselves. Janelle has taken the lead on being open and vulnerable in a no holds barred way because she understands that this issue is very systemic and it needs to change. Like you don't have the right to tell somebody what they want to wear, or how they act, what they do. And the whole nudes issue started because it was Pamela's idea. Janelle did not come up with this idea. Pamela did. They talked with lawyers. They had all this like set up. Like they had contracts. They signed papers. Everything. And people need to be able to express themselves as authentically as they possibly can. And a lot of these groups that are focusing on harassing MSTM and Janelle and us four at the very least. I know I've been personally attacked on multiple occasions because I have the audacity to stand up for Janelle and what she does. And like, she is one of the best people I have ever met. Like, I honestly don't know how she does everything that she does. She is not a sex predator. She's never groomed me or anyone, if we ever have questions or any or allegations brought to our attention that are quote unquote being said, we literally take it to her and she gives us the facts. And oh, sorry, my cat just came in.
Tonks also feels as though these allegations are affecting her way too.
Like, I've literally been pulled into group conversations with people that are spreading this smear campaign where they straight up just troll me, and they try to claim that I'm a troll for Janelle and I'm doing all this stuff, when literally whenever I comment on something or try to set the record straight, all I'm doing is voicing an opinion. And then because they don't want to provide the proof that they quote unquote have, they immediately go to straight up attacking people instead. And that isn't how humans should be. It's not even just like a community thing. It's not how people should act whatsoever. Like, if you believe something, you have the right to believe it. But you need to be prepared to explain why you're saying what you're saying. And none of these people, like, I've never met any of these people. I've met Janelle, I've met Carrie, I've met Jen, I met Ellie. And they, like, I've never talked to these people, but they attacked us based on a storyline that Pamela started. And instead of actually doing the adult thing and looking into it, going to both sides of the party, and just try to understand both sides and then make up your own decision, they just take the one story and stick with it. They don't try to understand or listen or try to figure out why something is being said. Everyone at MSTM is highly professional and ethical, and we never push people to do something they aren't comfortable doing. Like, our main priority is to help the MST community and to make sure people are getting or telling their stories the way they want to tell it. Like, it's, the allegations are false and it hurts the movement, it hurts the survivors. And I understand you may not like the way we go about things, like with the news. It's a huge issue for a lot of people, but if that's an issue for you, you don't have to start bashing a community or a movement or anything. All you have to do is keep scrolling. Like, I don't understand why people have to go on the on the attack because it's something they don't like.
Yeah.
Well, that's just like I'm sorry. That's just like when we were gearing up for DC, and I said, hey, is it okay if I bring pinup outfits to wear at the press conference?
Mm-hmm.
And I was prepared for some backlash. I was totally prepared for it, but everybody was so supportive. They're like, yes, do it. And it took me by surprise because I'm so used to people, again, degrading me and putting me down. Like Carrie, she even brought an outfit to wear too. And I was so in love with that. I was all like, yes.
Yeah.
I love that dress. It's life.
You look so cute.
Go ahead.
That's wonderful. We even did victory rolls in our hair.
Yes, Ellie did my victory rolls. From day one that I became involved with the movement, all of the women and everybody associated with have been so uplifting and so welcoming and wonderful. I love it.
Something else I want to quickly touch on is the assumption that's made in that email that every single person who's buying one of these nude campaigns are sexual predators. No, they're not. They're simply not.
No.
Because if that's the case, every single person who's ever gone to see the Venus de Milo in the museum is also a sexual predator. You are able to look at nudity without sexualizing it. You should be able to appreciate a, the form of a woman's body and the message that it is stating without sexualizing it. We have plenty of people, and we're not going to say names. There are people that we know personally and that we work with in the movement who buy our nudes, well, Janelle's nudes, I should say, who buy those nudes, who are survivors of MST, who appreciate the art, who enjoy uplifting women and survivors and women of color. Just because somebody appreciates the power that the nude photos have doesn't mean that they're a sexual predator. And for you, if you are watching, to buy into that and to spread that narrative, you are contributing to rape culture. You are 100% undeniably contributing to rape culture, which is completely, and utterly unacceptable. And the MST community, not just MSTM, the MST community, all of these different organizations and these people who claim to be advocates need to take a seat back and think about the social implications, about the historical nuance, and about the structures that are damaging to MST survivors that they are holding up by spreading this misinformation, by twisting these messages. Because it is not okay. It is absolutely not okay. And then to add people who you have never met into group chats to do nothing but berate them simply because you do not agree with the viewpoint of art is harassment. It is straight up harassment. And this all comes from Pamela Heal.
Yep.
All of it comes from Pamela Heal and her smear campaign. She has weaponized her victim status, or I'm in America, so like status. She has weaponized her victim status to make people believe her. This is manipulation. And I mean, this isn't the only, issue that Pamela has caused. We have shown evidence before of possible substance abuse, and I'm gonna pass on to Carrie actually, because Carrie has had personal contact with her when she first tried to join the movement. So I'm gonna let Carrie continue this, if that's okay, Carrie.
Yeah, that's fine. So I guess I should probably start out with I hate drama, like hate it with a passion.
Mm-hmm.
And when I started noticing some of what Pamela was saying on Facebook, I was like, oh, I'm just going to kind of take a step back. But by that point, I had already been like messaging her. I had filled out volunteer forms probably a year and a half ago now. And they just kind of disappeared. I guess when Corey kind of took over the volunteer forms, there was one forms. Actually, it was one form, right? Was in the folder. But I had filled all the forms out well over a year ago. But as somebody who was kind of watching from the outside, even though I was loosely affiliated with the organization, and had done like lobbying calls and things like that, I was definitely struck by the behavior changes. I should probably also preface this with, I am a I am a grad student studying mental health counseling and things like that. So, and one of my mom's sisters has substance abuse issues. So kind of that was my first thought when I started seeing a little bit of the erratic behavior happening online. And it would be things would turn into an argument that didn't need to be an argument. And because I know we're all in different places, like I just kind of decided I would hang back and I would kind of see what was going on. And where I have not received any of the outright verbal abuse and things that Corey has, which I've seen happen, I think I kind of flew under the radar a little bit up until recently when, yeah, I think it was more after the trip to DC. But for me, I guess I come at it from a different perspective, and like I love the pinup girl looks and everything else that Jen was talking about. But at the same time, I was also raised very conservative. So for me personally, like I understand the artistic aspect of nudes, but for me personally, that's not something that I would do, and that's okay. I've never once been even approached about it. I've never felt like that's something that like is required to be here. Yeah, I guess for me, like I don't even know if you can see this. Like this was me as like a teenager. I look like Laura Ingalls, right? Like I look like Little House on the Prairie. So I mean, jeans and a t-shirt is about as scandalous as I get. But yeah, when I started, getting the allegations, or hearing them, I hung back. I just kind of listened and I waited because I didn't because I don't like drama. I didn't want to see things turn into a mudslinging match. And that's actually one of the things that kept me around, was because Janelle didn't get out there and start dragging Pamela's name through the mud. She was really, really quiet, and I felt really respectful about it. And then when I did have the chance to talk to her about it, she was really open. She was like, well, these were the things that were being said. These were the things that happened. But my concern was the organization and Pamela's mental health. And to me, that speaks volumes about the friendship and the care that she felt, even when her name was being dragged through the mud. So, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's
I
just,
mean,
it's
no,
frustrating.
everything
I'm
you're saying.
shaking right now because I'm so
Yeah.
frustrated. But
Yeah.
yeah,
There seems to be, I've had it said to me, there's this attitude of like, we're all brainwashed by Janelle, right? I mean, I think at some point we've all gone to Janelle and been like, what's going on? Like,
Yep.
give us facts, give us details, give us answers. And I have gone to other people, right? People who may come to the MST movement page, and they've put something hateful on there, and I've said like, hey, can you give me proof?
Yep.
And they can't. They tell me, oh, you're one of them, you're being brainwashed, wake the F up. And I'm stood there going, the only organization and leader of an organization, I should say as well, who has answered my questions, who has treated me with respect, who hasn't berated me, is Janelle. Like I've straight up called Janelle and been like, "Are you messing with me? Like, is this all a scam?" And she's given me proof, and I don't get that proof from any other leaders. I just get mocked. I've had my disability mocked. My wedding photo was posted somewhere on Facebook with, "Oh, didn't he catch a pig?" written on it. I like I've been told, to go kill myself for daring to support a woman who has treated me with nothing but respect and answered any concern that I have. And I think people are quick, particularly in 2020, where everyone's frustrated, everyone's, hurting, and also everybody for a lot of it was sat at home on their computers all day. People are quick to jump on a bandwagon. People are quick to jump on this kind of cancel culture. And it's completely toxic because these allegations are not true. And you can have an issue with Janelle, a personal issue, if you want to have an issue with Janelle, but berating the entire movement isn't just hurting Janelle. It's hurting the volunteers who are already here.
Well, and I think it's also hurting our cause. If we're all working for a common cause, why are we tearing each other down instead of nitpicking here and this and that? Why aren't we joining forces? Like, how are we supposed to take down, the man, so to speak, if we're not even like working together? If we were to work together, we would be unstoppable, and we don't have to do it. And I don't think that's Janelle's goal, is to do it under this banner or that banner. It's just there's a problem that needs to be addressed. There's an issue that needs fixing. And not to, hijack Hillary Clinton's line, but stronger together, right? Like, that was her, I think. But just that idea that working together, we would get so much more accomplished. And meanwhile, we've got people that really their focus isn't fixing the problem. Their focus is petty personal grudges. And that bothers me. Like, personally, I have not had a personal negative experience with Pamela. I have no hard feelings towards her, but what I see her doing, I don't feel is healthy. I don't feel it's good. And it bothers me that, I see a lot of potential there. She's a phenomenal writer. Like, she has the ability to draw people and get them to rally behind her. And I just really, really want her to, I really want her to be able to do it from a healthy place. And I want us to be able to work together. Maybe, I don't know. I don't feel like I'm the odd man out in that. Just from the conversations that I've had with everybody, I don't feel like I'm the odd man out with that at all. I think that's just across the board. Like, we just want to be united.
It was one of the things I actually said, like, when all of this will go on, we have a public statement.
Hold on, we have a comment Janelle just posted. Instead of doing lives, why aren't you finding a way to help Tay? Your focus is exploding rape survivors. So we were working with Tay's family, and we ended up pulling out from working with them due to issues because of this Pamela drama. And we didn't want that. So the email is essentially what happened with that I read. So the email that I read earlier was about Tay and us pulling out from working with them because of the allegations and the smear campaign going on with us. So there's your answer to that question.
Yeah, this is, we haven't done a live about this before. We haven't addressed these comments before. There are people spending their time, instead of helping MST, running this smear campaign against us. This is the first time we've spoken out about it because it's got to the point where it's affecting our professional relationships. It's affecting our ability to help Faye. It has affected our ability to help Faye. And that's not okay. That's not right. As a direct result of these allegations, we cannot support Faye in the way that we wanted to. in the way
It's
that we
because
could
of
have.
this that we chose to speak out, because it's like taking away from the stories that actually need to be told. This is the only reason why we're addressing these issues. We didn't want to have this conversation with you guys. We didn't want to bring all this out into the public, but we were forced to because of the escalation of everything. At this point, it's harming the women who need our help the most. And instead of us coming together as a community, everybody wants to just attack and do this damn smear campaign. We've had a lot of press lined up for Tay. We did a lot of work with them and their family, but we had to pull out because of this issue. And it was for Tay that we pulled out, because she deserves to get the justice for what happened with her. It's very frustrating. Sorry.
And I mean, this isn't just, right, you know, I do a lot of the volunteer onboarding for the movement, and when someone joins to be a volunteer, I like to do a preliminary call with them, and Corey does some with me as well. But before Corey joined in the movement, it was pretty much just me doing that. And you would not believe, I have countless examples of it, of women who needed support, who needed a community, women and men actually, who wanted to access politics and end MST. And I would be on the phone with them, and we'd have a great relationship going, and we're getting their volunteer forms done. And then they email me and say, because of what I've seen online, I don't want to be involved anymore.
Yep.
That is actively stifling the voices of survivors by spreading lies. You are stopping people getting the support, getting the justice, and having the opportunity to access politics and to lobby and protest for things that they are passionate about in a way of healing and in a way that's true to them. And
This whole
that
smear
hurts
campaign
me.
is really toxic as fuck. I didn't mean to interrupt you, Ellie, but it's like
No,
ridiculous
it's
how
absolutely
toxic
fine.
this is becoming. Like, because of this campaign and all these lies being spread about Janelle and the movement, people are getting scared to come forward and voice their stories and getting their own justice. By engaging in this behavior, it only silences survivors and prevents them from getting the help they need and deserve.
So we're already dealing with that, right? Like coming forward in a military setting as someone who's been assaulted. How many thousands of people a year don't report for that very reason because of the backlash they face? And then to be on the outside and finally feel like you're in a space where you can start addressing those issues and start raising awareness, and then to be met with it by other people who have supposedly experienced the same thing. Fiscal year 2018, there was 20,000 plus reports of sexual assault in the military. That's an increase, right, from what it's been other years. But the majority of those people, their cases never made it to trial. The majority of those people faced retaliatory action for reporting. And then I thought we were here to build a community, to make it safe. So we can go, we can lobby, we can be vocal about our experiences and seek change. But instead, we're getting backlash from other people that should be like, we should be joining arms. We should be a human wall. We should be like marching on DC and just stopping this machine in its tracks.
Yeah.
Our mission is to elevate the stories of survivors, not to slander them and not to scare them and not to be a bigger part of the problem. And I'm sorry, I'm raising my voice a little bit. I need to calm down and take a couple deep breaths. This is really frustrating, and it's
We
we shouldn't
know,
be doing this to
that,
each other.
Sorry.
Sorry.
No, go ahead, Jen.
At the end of the day, it comes down to how a survivor decides to reclaim their body, reclaim their life, and heal is on the individual survivor.
Yes.
And anybody who has been through therapy, who has been through treatment, who has studied can tell you, there is no one way to heal. There is no one way to approach how a survivor, becomes themselves again. There are those who are on one end of the spectrum, those who are on the other, and those who are in the middle, and all of the above. So if somebody decides they want to do a new photo shoot, they want to show their body, they want to become a porn star or a stripper, that is on them. Then there are those who become ultra religious, who become, they cover up from the neck down. They become very conservative, and that is okay too.
Jen, let me interrupt you just for a second, since Ellie can't see this comment Janelle just posted. It says, Sarah Bonner, I've been here since Pamela's untimely and unamiable exit. She's a pretty little woman that would literally like to see all survivor men, women suffer just to justify her little revenge story in her brain.
And I think that is the crux of the matter. People would rather see Janelle fail than end MST. People would rather see. Yeah, this is what it, to me, boils down to. People have such an issue with Janelle that they will go out of their way to hurt the volunteers who work really hard, by the way. We work really hard. Like, we don't get paid to be here. We're not paid to do this. We are trying so hard. But people would rather see Janelle fail. They would rather isolate Janelle by attacking her volunteers. They would rather tear her down. I can tell you right now, I have never, ever, ever seen any behavior from Janelle that has been a worry for me.
Never.
And if there are allegations, I have gone to her with them, and I will say it again, she has been the only person who will answer my questions directly, with respect, and give me evidence that isn't hearsay, that isn't a rumor, that isn't, well, somebody told me who told them who told them. And yet you'll continue to tear people down, because that says to me that you aren't that interested in ending MST at all. That says to me that you're just interested in getting your name above Janelle's. That says to me that you're more interested in tearing a woman of color down.
Yep.
That says to me that you're more interested in tearing down an organization who speaks out strongly about LGBTQ plus rights. When we were lobbying for the I Am Vanessa Guillen bill, we had to specifically ask to get trans rights put in there so that people who were trans could receive protection from MST. Because other organizations didn't do that. Because they're looking at this, I believe, like a trend. I Am Vanessa Guillen isn't a trend. Black Lives Matter isn't a trend. LGBTQ plus rights isn't a trend. MST is not a trend. We're trying to put in the work. We have not addressed this publicly in 6 months because we've been busy putting in the work. Sorry, I got a bit rattled then.
Did you read this?
Fine.
Ellie?
Yeah, we have a public statement from. Pardon, sorry.
Oh, I was saying, did you want me to read his statement?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah. We have a public statement from a volunteer from the movement who's also my husband. He's rather lovely.
except
Um,
for there. That's his only flaw.
and his mustache. We do not like
Yes,
the mustache.
and mustache. Okay, so I'm going to read Justin's. I just had a brain fart on the word. Statement.
Statement.
My name is Justin Sparaninski. Did I say that right?
Sparazinski.
Well, I was
I won't
close.
even try.
And for those in the movement not aware, I am Ellie Waite's husband, a registered volunteer with MSTM, and a bit of a silent support system behind the camera by design. Unfortunately, situations like this have called for me to step forward and call it a duck when I see one. Having routinely chosen to be in the background, I have witnessed firsthand the mental health implications of Pamela Heal's ridiculous actions, as well as her chosen circle of supporters who believe her lies and work to her task. If these individuals really cared about well-being of sexual violence survivors, and they wouldn't be doing this, or then they wouldn't be doing this. These actual collections of organizations wouldn't be working with gusto to hurt people who are actually trying to help and actually making a difference. With that in mind, I have never once been presented with a reason not to trust Janelle or the MSTM movement. For 6+ months, when I defended her, I've been met with hostility, which was beyond reasonable and not without an obvious script or coaching. I was accused publicly on Facebook of emotionally manipulating my wife when, as stated above, all this is said and done, I'm the one caring for my wife and getting the dustpan to scoop up the pieces that these individuals chip off of her. I've repeatedly had my intelligence questioned and without remorse for my sex life with my wife, also a sexual trauma victim, continuously mocked, all in the name of disliking Janelle. This is far from my first time in the political spheres, and I am constantly dumbfounded by the sheer entitlement and viciousness of certain individuals and organizations with a common link in this space. They truly do not care about anything or anyone. They don't have the well-being of survivors in mind. Anyone should anyone should rightfully question if these individuals are trying to start rival organizations to quote unquote help people, then why they engage in character attacks and smear campaign questions about mental and sexual health and continue demonstrating false smear campaigns that actually worsen the damage they claim to want to end. I make this statement in sound mind from my perspective witness and also having a rudimentary understanding of the legal releases I have signed months prior to this. Hashtag end MST.
Yeah. So that's my husband. We had our sex life openly mocked. And um, I think so. Something else. When my husband and Pamela did communicate publicly on Facebook, and she sat back as she allowed people to accuse him of being emotionally abusive towards me, of making fun of our sex life, to mocking our relationship. Essentially, I privately, because I don't put much public, I privately messaged her and was like, "Hey, I don't think this is cool. Me and Justin defended you for months, and like we would like an apology." And I put in the message, just like Carrie mentioned earlier, I think you are a wonderful writer. I think you have the skills to build something wonderful. And I don't know what's going on in your head or your heart, but please, like stop doing this. And she blocked me. She blocked me. But she's happy to continue posting this stuff publicly.
Of course.
And that says to me, she's not willing to actually want to have this conversation. Because a very nice, polite message off me and she blocks me. but she's willing to have it all over Facebook. You should question the intentions of somebody when their priorities lie more in Facebook than they do with having a conversation with a sexual violence survivor. When their priorities is more about tagging my husband with the words little dick energy than replying to a non-aggressive, non-threatening private message. Because this is what it's coming down to at this point. And for organizations, for organizations who are supporting her to blindly believe her side of the story, why? Why aren't you asking any questions? Why are you just going ahead and believing this? We didn't speak on this for 6 months because we didn't want to drag her name through the mud. Because we were rising above this. But as we said previously, it is affecting our ability to help survivors. So we're going to have to come out and say it.
We remain quiet because we felt that this took away from our cause, only caused a divide in the MST space, and is destroying and disempowering survivors. A lot of these organizations blindly believe white women's smear campaigns over a leader who is a woman of color, which honestly, all of us are white here. And I can speak for myself here, and yes. I know Ellie feels the same way, but it's ridiculous how fast and how much people take the word of a white woman or man or somebody over the word of someone of color. And that's another detrimental issue we are dealing with. It speaks volumes to the social dynamics that harm women and minorities who come forward and report MST. As minorities will most likely be retaliated against, this is the same trend we are seeing in the community. This is not how we end MST. And like we've said this entire time, none of us wanted to come out and say this stuff. None of us wanted to get involved in this because it takes away from the whole story of MST and it brings it down. Like, we should all be joining together and working together, but instead people want to tear people down, and we just couldn't stay quiet anymore.
We should be building that network where if Jen knows somebody in her area that needs help, she can pick up the phone and say, hey, call another organization that deals with that specifically. Like, this is a political organization, so we do the lobbying piece, right? Where we may not necessarily run a shelter. I mean, right now, veteran homelessness among female veterans is rising at like 7% a year, I think, and female veterans are only 9% of the veteran population, just for perspective. So that's like 40% of female veterans, more than that, are facing homelessness. So, and most of those women will choose being homeless over putting their kids in the foster system, because most places that bring have housing for female veterans don't take kids, right? So we should be building that network right now. We should be working with other organizations to have those resources. So it's like plug and play. Somebody reaches out to us, we can say, well, we don't do that, but these guys do. But we don't have that anymore, And MST is like the #1 cause of female veteran homelessness. Like, that's in the VA reports. Please pull them up. Like, just pull them up. It's not that hard to find. Like, the information is there. And instead, we're sitting here tearing ourselves apart, and it's unnecessary. Like, just work together. I love St. Ignatius, and there's one of the Ignatian teachings is on the 2 armies, and how when God calls somebody to do something, you have the choice of being in these two armies, and one of them, you're offered a job cleaning the toilets, right? It's not big, it's not glamorous, but it's something where in Satan's army, not to get all religious, but like in Satan's army, you are offered, you're going to be a general, or you're going to be an admiral, or you're going to be, you're going to be this, you're going to be that. But sometimes we can't all be in those positions, right? Sometimes you got to clean the toilet. Sometimes you got to take out the trash. Sometimes it's just taking that humble role and just not needing to be the center of everything. And honestly, I haven't gotten the vibe from Janelle that she needs to be the center of anything or everything or anything. It's just, hey, we're going to do this. Hey, we're going to do that. Here's some phone numbers. Here's this. Here's that. Call these congressmen. Call these ones, and it's just a working together. That's what it's been all along. And I really, really, really would love to see all these other organizations just start working together again, because that's where we should be at. Everybody came together really strong after the Vanessa Guillen case broke. Like, that hurt so many of us.
Yeah.
And like, I was doing a residency for a school at that point, and my professor pulled me aside. He's like, "Are you okay?" He's like you just seem really shook. I'm like, yeah, but the amount of community and camaraderie, and I was added to one Facebook group, and there was over 2,000 stories from women in the first hour that this group was active. 2,000 stories, and most of these women had never come forward before, but that story broke something in them where they couldn't keep quiet anymore.
Yeah.
And that's where we all need to be at. We need to be like, we got to come together. This can't happen again. We can't have another sister thrown in jail. We can't have another sister murdered and burned and buried. We can't let this keep happening.
Yeah.
Here's the thing.
Please. Go ahead, Jen. Sorry.
No, go ahead, Ellen.
No, because I was essentially going to wrap up. So.
Okay. Here's the thing. At the end of the day, we're all adults. We've all either served in the military or served in, a job where we may not like somebody, but we've put that, we put that in the back burner to focus on the mission. I don't know how many times in the military I was put in a position where I was working on something right next to somebody that I could not stomach. Yeah. But I bit my tongue and I did it. And there are people within any organization that you're not going to like on a personal level, but we need to stop losing focus on that. We need to stop losing focus on the mission. And in order to move forward, we need to realize that it's not, what is one individual doing to reclaim their sexuality, to reclaim their body autonomy. We need to focus on ending MST. We need to focus on getting changes done. And if you cannot put your personal animosity of someone on the back burner in order to stop and make sure that someone else isn't beaten, isn't raped, isn't thrown through a glass window, that any of us who have young daughters 10, 20 years from now who join the military, we don't sit there and worry that our child is what happened to me going to happen to my daughter. You need to determine whether or not you are the best advocate. If you cannot put your personal feelings towards an individual person aside, you don't need to be an advocate. An advocate focuses on the mission. An advocate focuses on ensuring that what happened to them does not happen to somebody else.
I couldn't honestly think of a better person that describes than Janelle. She sacrificed everything. She's done everything for this. Like, she'll put everybody above herself, and that's what advocacy is supposed to do. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you, Jen.
No, you're fine.
No, I mean, it's completely true. She has stayed silent for 6 months. For 6 months, while people have put her name through the mud, have accused her of being a cult leader, have accused her of being a predator. These, these aren't small accusations. This isn't, oh, I don't like her. This is serious accusations, accusing her of money laundering, of being a scammer. I have had personal friends call me in the middle of the night and say, why I feel like you should know that you're working with a money launderer. And I'm stood there going, well, first of all, I don't know Janelle's personal finances very well. and and second of all, where's the proof? And the proof that I was given was a text from somebody else that said, I've heard this about Janelle. Well, that's not proof, that's hearsay. And please, if you are in this space, if you are in the MST space and you are trying to fight to end MST, please think about the people who you are following, the people who you are considering leaders. Because if you are lifting up the voices of people who are causing this much destruction, who are stopping people from being volunteers, who are stifling the voices of minority women, and who are tearing them down, please reconsider. Because why? Why would you want to do that? I personally, even though I remain very private in a lot of ways, I'm never tagged in MSTM posts or anything like that. Why, the fact that you would spend time mocking my marriage, telling Corey to go brush her teeth for absolutely no reason, right? Says more. You're exposing yourself. Yeah, you're exposing yourself more than you are us. You're showing your true intentions more than you're showing ours.
Can I interrupt really fast?
Because we've kept quiet.
One thing I did want to let everybody know, when we did that trip to DC for the press conference in front of the Commandant's house, Janelle raised the money and paid for all of us to go to DC. Clearly, the money being raised is going to to fight the end of MST. So you guys can try to say she's a money launderer. You can say she's doing this for her own personal gain. You can say everything you want, but all the facts clearly say otherwise.
Yeah. And if you don't like us, you don't have to.
Right.
You don't have to like us. like you really don't have to like us. But don't attack us. You call yourself a feminist, and yet you're essentially working a part-time job tearing other women down?
Yeah.
No, that's not okay.
No.
Yeah. So, I mean, I feel like we got a lot out there. Has anybody got anything they'd like to say before we wrap up, I suppose? We've been on here for over an hour.
Have we really? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we're all survivors. We're all fighting for the same thing. Put your personal feelings aside and work towards ending MST. Because if we can all do that, if we can all focus on the mission, we can enact so much. We can enact the changes that we want. We can make sure that a young girl born today who swears in at 18 will not suffer and deal with what we've dealt with. But we have to start working together because that is the goal that we have.
And by trying to destroy other people's credibility, the only thing that's happening is the individual's credibility is also being damaged. So at the end of the day, who's going to be a credible person to come forward if all we're doing is tearing each other down instead of working
And
together?
especially from the
Yeah.
fact of the stories and what actually needs to get put out there and solved and dealt
Yeah.
with.
Yeah. So I think we're gonna wrap up.
I did want to say
And
one last
I
thing.
don't know if people have. Oh, okay.
We need to focus on the mission and protect the community. And that's essentially it. So,
Mm-hmm.
all you, Ellie.